Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and I'm super excited to be sitting down to talk about a very old school BioWare style game in Exodus. So for those who missed our first video on Exodus, I highlighted this is where the old school BioWare that many of you adore went to. So you have talent like James Olin, who is the lead designer on the likes of KOTOR and Dragon Age Origins, heading up this project. You have Drew Karpyshyn, who wrote the likes of KOTOR, which I think is like the best gaming story ever, Jade Empire, which is incredible, as well as the entirety of Mass Effect. He is writing this game. He is the lead writer. So there's a lot of old BioWare talent backing this game. That does not guarantee it'll be great, as I highlighted in that video, but it certainly makes for an exciting formula when you look at also the game itself, which is very much Interstellar meets Mass Effect and has a baby. It looks awesome. And after a lot of talk from the developers, they've done a lot of Q&As, we covered those as well, we finally get to lay eyes on brand new gameplay. You see, this was first revealed at the Game Awards last year, and it was the briefest snippet after a big cinematic trailer of maybe 20-30 seconds of gameplay. And honestly, not all of it looked fantastic, where I thought we might be shaping up for a potential, if you will, Callisto Protocol kind of experience of, hey, that reminds me of the thing I like, just not as great as that original thing. But right now, what we're looking at is pre-alpha gameplay. And for pre-alpha, this is looking sharp in my opinion. There's a lot to be excited about. I just want to share some thoughts on this trailer and on the future of this game, when it might be coming out as we continue to cover Exodus. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into what's going on with BioWare or BioWare-like games, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. So like I mentioned, pre-alpha gameplay, pretty early phase of development, all things considered. But here's the catch, is that last year's gameplay was also considered pre-alpha. So compared to that, it's been shined up quite a bit. A lot of the community was a little annoyed that they finally showed out with a ton of gameplay and there was no date, no window. Here's why I love that. We have faced a lot of disappointment in 2024 as far as I'm concerned when it comes to ambitious AAA projects. And whether this is a 2025 or 2026 game, I don't know and I don't care. This is a brand new team, despite the talent that's there, that has been assembled to take on a pretty big task, which is creating a massive new AAA sci-fi IP that goes beyond just video games. I highlighted how there's already a book tied into the Exodus world. If you go to their website and you scroll through the dozens of lore articles they have, this is already, before the game is even launched, a completely rich universe full of lore and eventually products for you to dive into. So the goals for this game are lofty, and because of that, they should take every bit of time they can, because it reminds me a little bit of those pre-Destiny days where you were really sizing up, 10 years long and all this expanded media content planned for it. And in a way, given that Bungie is in an awful position now, but before all of that, it looked like it paid off, right? That whole long-term investment has made Destiny a long-term enduring franchise, despite live service being a bit of a roller coaster like this. So I'm cool with them tucking the date away and saving it for a time that they feel comfortable they can deliver it. And for now, I'm happy just to lay eyes on this game with more extensive gameplay and have them back up the talk that they've had. One thing that they've mentioned a lot in all of their little Q&As is, yeah, it's fun to play. Wish we could tell you more. Sorry. But now they finally get to back it up a little bit. We get a little bit of a look at the characters, but more than anything, we get a look at that Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2 animation style. Some people were a little let down by facial animations. I think for pre-alpha, it looks solid, but here is the honest truth that I've said multiple times before. When it comes to facial animations, I will always be critical of them, but in like hardcore RPGs that are supposed to be super reactive, it's not something that's going to make or break my experience. Do I want something like Andromeda? No. Do I expect something like the level of Baldur's Gate 3, which had so many unique animations per conversation that it made my head spin? Of course, that is ideal, but it doesn't make or break those experiences, because speaking of old school BioWare, I was raised on the likes of KOTOR, where they cycle the same 3-4 conversation animations where they're pumping their fists outwards and then going like this, or they're kind of gesturing out and then glazing their hand left to right. Like, I've seen these animations over and over, and to me, it's just about what they're saying. So I don't really overanalyze that stuff. When I saw the little jog run around these planets was very Mass Effect-like. That is obviously the audience they're gunning for. The Mass Effect 4 you never got. The Mass Effect, the BioWare-style game that you never got. This seems to be what they're aiming for. But I love the way they're evolving what I would expect out of a little bit of a BioWare experience. For example, there was stealth gameplay, crouching around, taking out enemies from behind. Did not expect that to be in this game, so some level of freedom of approach is here. But the main selling point is the action-packed third-person combat that looks ridiculous. We saw a grapple gun where the main character would like shoot up and go on top of a pillar, and he was trying to hide from one of the awakened bears, which we'll get into what the awakened are in just a moment here if you don't know what they are, but trying to hide up there from them, and this dude takes down the entire tower, and then he falls on the bear and literally stabs him in the head for almost like a finishing move. I just thought that was awesome, and more importantly, what I think sells action combat nowadays is dynamic. Like that sort of sequence alone, if that's truly how the final game ends up, where you can do things like that and things can happen like that, that is the story you tell beyond the actual storytelling, right? Like there are choices and we'll debate those all day long, but the gameplay itself, right? The gameplay itself and how you can actually have that moment where the environment around you is crumbling and you just have a moment-to-moment thought that takes you to victory. That's the water cooler moment. And I'm excited about that sort of stuff too. To have a grapple gun in just environmental traversal as well as in combat is great. It does look like it's going to be used in a contextual way. It wasn't like he was latching it on to anything in the environment. It looks like in specific moments you'll be using that. So I wouldn't expect a level of like insane freedom, but it is a different level of movement than what we're accustomed to in Mass Effect. Because what I think of when I go movement, Mass Effect, I think of my favorite class in Mass Effect in the Vanguard, where you just press the Y button and you dive that sucker and then you ground pound, especially in Mass Effect 3. Good God, I think the Vanguard class feels amazing. So to see a level of mobility here was really cool on top of stealth gameplay. There were also melee attacks with some sort of mechanical, electrical, energetic object coming out of your hand. Reminded me a lot of the Omni tool that was in Mass Effect 3, where you could like pull people over cover and impale them. I thought that was awesome. So again, I'm seeing a lot of Mass Effect, and that excites me because as time has gone on and as RPG after RPG has let me down, or fantasy RPGs have become the go-to, I've been hungering for that sort of sci-fi RPG that satiates me, because I really haven't had that in a while, and I'm hoping that this one will be it. And again, because they're holding the date, I'm hoping that is a sign that they recognize the task in front of them, that there are a lot of people who are hoping BioWare would deliver something really special, but really have yet to, because we're years away from the next Mass Effect. And especially when, I don't mean to dog on them, but when I look at the casting and I look at the people they are hiring for the Mass Effect TV show that's reportedly underway, I worry a little bit about what Mass Effect is to BioWare. But I don't want to sell this game as a home run before it actually hits, because again, I used this reference earlier. Callisto Protocol is a really good point of reflection for all of us. I remember, oh my God, they nailed the marketing for that game. Every bit of the Callisto Protocol was just hitting its stride with every showing. The brutal kills, the UI built onto your body, everything said Dead Space. And Dead Space for me is my favorite ever survival horror game. So this was an easy sell. But then what I got at the end of the day was like a heavily linear, melee focused, survival-ish horror kind of game. And it didn't really pan out as well as I had liked. Is it an awful game? No, but it paled in comparison to the original. And with these developers going off and making their own studios, and especially in the case of Mass Effect, where like Humanoid Origin, which was Casey Hudson's team, just shut down after 3 years. Mac Walters went to go work on his own game, and he was one of the leads on Mass Effect. His studio lost funding. So really, it's up to James Olin and Drew Karpyshyn to deliver on the BioWare prophecy. Otherwise, all these ex-BioWare devs just had funding pulled or lost their studios and haven't delivered anything. So again, the pressure is really on, and I'm really pulling for them. But there were also some other cool things. I talked about the bear earlier, the Awakened. For those who don't know, long story short, basically science and technology have moved so far in this universe that animals can talk and they can interact, and they're their own factions. And I mean, you saw the bear was armored up. And so there's a point in this trailer, a frog is just floating around thanking you, talking to you. I'm like, this game is going to have some ridiculous moments. You know how like in Divinity Original Sin 2, I forgot what the name of the tag is. I think it was like a perk or something called like Animal Whisperer or something like that. But anyway, you could go and talk to random animal NPCs that otherwise you would ignore, and they just go moo, and that would be it. You could have full conversation with them, even get quests from them. And that was like really, really awesome. And so to see like frogs talking here and whatnot, to see bears talking and interacting with you, I'm curious what quests are born out of that, because I feel like this game could have a ton of ridiculous moments. So that's why you're fighting like really normal looking animals in this otherwise very futuristic universe, which again, I mentioned is kind of like Interstellar, but an RPG. And that Interstellar messes a lot with time dilation. And I feel like we get a hint of that in this trailer, because while there were mild differences between the two characters, there's a character who's older by the end of the trailer that has salt and pepper, longer hair, and he seems like an older version of the character he's standing toe-to-toe with. At least that's the message I got from it, where I wonder if you're going to have that sort of face yourself moment from another time period, and that could be an interesting antagonist, like you trying to stop you. But speaking of characters, I think I heard Garrus's voice actor in this trailer. Some people in the comments, I didn't really hear it, thought they heard Jacob's voice actor. And so hearing that again, I feel like they just understand what they're doing. It's like the old gang is getting back together. Things are lining up. And so, as I've said many times, really pulling for this game. I hope it's excellent. As for predictions, like when do I think this is coming out? I feel like if you're in pre-alpha now, you can, once that's done, pre-production's kind of over, can sprint pretty quickly. But I feel like mid 2026 sounds right for this game in the terms of taking your time, getting it right, but also what they're shooting for and how much polish that may require. One of the big selling points with Interstellar as an RPG is they said you're going to get this celestial tech, you'll bring it back to pretty much like a home world, and you'll choose what to do with said technology. And so like when you go out on your next exodus and you come back, thousands of years have passed, and so you'll arrive to a completely transformed society based on what you have brought back. And I feel like that is a amazing idea for a choice and consequence centric game. But at the same time, we do have to consider that is ambitious to visually represent. Who knows what quests are born from that, weapons, armor. I mean, the options are endless, which is what makes it really awesome. So again, for them to take their time, I feel like they're going to need to test this one out a lot, so that, you know, I don't mind a little BioWare jank in like the animations, whether it be running or talking. I can live with that. But when it comes to like bugs, breaking quests and that sort of stuff, then we have a wee bit of a problem. But otherwise, based on this trailer here, I think the game looks excellent. Again, you should check out the Exodus website if you're looking to dig into the lore. They already have the book out, which is kind of like a separate story within this universe, so you can get familiar in a lot of ways if you're really hyped for this game. I'm a little bit nervous in that, like, do I give myself completely over? Do I really risk it all and like read this 900-page book? And I've read all of the lore things and watched all of the Q&As, but do I take that next step forward? I kind of want to, so we'll see. But yeah, this trailer looked awesome. Shout out to Archetype and the team there. Looks like they're doing an awesome job. Can't wait to learn more. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think. I know a lot of the public seems to be like disinterested in BioWare stuff, but I'm curious if this lights your fire. So fire away down below. Other than that, I'll catch all of you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.